You know what really gets under my scales? Ignorance. And let me tell you, I, Commander Zylok of the Krallian Imperial Guard, was swimming in it like a hatchling in a mud pool. The Galactic Defense Academy, Sector 7, Training Hall Omega. That's where this whole humiliating saga began. Picture me, if you will. 2 meters of pure Krallian muscle, armored scales that could deflect plasma rounds, 3 rows of ceremonial combat medals hanging from my chest like trophies of superiority. I'd trained warriors from 16 different species. Kragoth berserkers, taught them finesse. Borfian shock troops, showed them discipline. Saxion assassins, gave them honor. I was, without question, the best combat instructor in 3-star systems. Or so I thought. The training hall that morning was packed with the usual mix of cadets. Kragoth younglings, each one built like a walking tank, were grunting through strength exercises. Borfians, with their 4 arms and crystallized bone structure, were practicing multi-weapon techniques. Xians, sleek and deadly, moved through the shadows like liquid death. And then there were the humans. 2 of them. Exchange students from some backwater planet called Earth. The Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, decided humanity deserved a chance to prove themselves worthy of military cooperation. What a joke that seemed at the time. Marcus Webb was the male. Average height by human standards, which meant he barely reached my shoulder. Thin arms. No visible armor plating. Skin so soft-looking I wondered how he survived his own planet's weather. He had short dark hair and wore the standard academy training suit, which hung on him like he was playing dress-up in his parents' clothes. The female was even worse. Rebens pressed a restrained chip red. Petite humans called it. I called it concerningly fragile. She couldn't have weighed more than 60 kilograms, soaking wet. Short blonde hair, pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. Bright blue eyes that seemed far too cheerful for someone about to be humiliated. She looked like a stiff breeze could snap her in half. All right, listen up, cadets. I bellowed, my voice echoing off the reinforced walls. Today we test your combat prowess. Strength, precision, lethality. The 3 pillars of warfare. The Kragoth cadets roared their approval. The Borfians clacked their mandibles in excitement. The Thexians simply nodded, as was their way. The humans, they just stood there looking calm, almost bored. That should have been my first warning sign. In the field, I continued, pacing before the assembled cadets like the decorated instructor I was. Your enemies will not care about your feelings. They will not hold back. They will strike with everything they have, and only the strong will survive. I stopped directly in front of Marcus and Riley, looking down at them with what I'm now ashamed to admit was pure condescension. Some species, I said slowly, making sure everyone heard, are naturally gifted in combat. Scales, armor, claws, enhanced musculature. These are the gifts of evolution, the marks of a warrior race. I gestured at the humans with one clawed hand. Others are not so fortunate. Soft skin, weak bones, no natural weapons whatsoever. I heard snickers from the other cadets. But fear not, humans. Even the weakest species can find their place in the galaxy. Administration perhaps, or diplomacy. Nothing wrong with sitting safely behind a desk while real warriors do the fighting. Marcus's jaw tightened slightly. Rayleigh's expression didn't change at all. She just kept looking at me with those unnervingly calm blue eyes. Today, I announced, turning back to address the full group, we will demonstrate exactly what separates the warriors from the others. Each of you will strike the combat dummy with maximum force. The sensors will measure impact, penetration, and potential lethality. I slapped one of the reinforced training dummies, its armored surface gleaming under the harsh lights. Military grade, designed to withstand punishment from the galaxy's strongest species. Let us see, I said, my voice dripping with theatrical anticipation. Who among you has the strength to truly call themselves a warrior? The other instructors, gathered along the walls, were already grinning. They knew what was coming. We'd seen plenty of humans before, fumbling through basic training, struggling with exercises that other species found elementary. This was going to be educational. My sisters preserve me, it certainly was, just not in the way I expected. The demonstrations began, and by the ancestors, they were impressive. First up was Thor, a Krakoth cadet built like a cargo hauler. He approached the combat dummy, cracked his knuckles, which sounded like rocks grinding together, and wound up his massive fist. When he struck, the impact echoed through the hall like a thunderclap. The dummy's chest plate showed a significant dent, and the sensors lit up green indicating lethal force achieved. Excellent. I praised, making notes on my datapad. That is the power of a warrior species. Next came Borphia, one of the 4 armed cadets. She struck with 2 fists simultaneously, her crystallized bone structure allowing for devastating impact. The dummy actually slid backward half a meter, and the armor plating cracked along the edges. The other Borphians chittered their approval. Then the Thexians went, their strikes precise and deadly, aimed at weak points in the dummy's construction. Not as much raw power as the Kragoth, but tactically superior. Each species brought something formidable to the demonstration. Each one proved why they belonged in the Galactic Defense Forces. And then it was Marcus Webb's turn. The human male stepped forward slowly, and I could already hear the snickering starting among the other cadets. He looked so small compared to everyone else, so vulnerable. His thin arms were barely visible beneath his training suit sleeves. "Ah, yes," I said loudly, making sure my voice carried to every corner of the hall. "Let us see what Earth's finest has to offer. Please, Cadet Webb, show us the legendary ferocity of humanity." More laughter. Even some of the instructors along the walls were grinning now, anticipating the comedy about to unfold. Marcus took a breath, positioned himself in front of the dummy, and drew back his fist. His form was actually decent, I'll give him that. Whoever trained him knew basic mechanics, but form means nothing without force behind it. He punched. The impact was underwhelming. Pathetic, really. The dummy barely registered the hit. The sensors flickered yellow, indicating non-lethal force, insufficient for combat situations. The readout showed impact levels about 1/5 of what Krater had achieved. The training hall exploded with laughter. "By the stars," I exclaimed, slapping my thigh dramatically. "I have seen baby Floxians with more bite. Tell me, Cadet Webb, was that your warm-up strike? Surely you are saving your real strength for a second attempt." Marcus's face flushed red, that peculiar human response to embarrassment. "No, sir," he said quietly. "That was my full strength." Oh, this was too good. "Your full strength," I repeated, turning to address the other cadets. "Did you all hear that? Full strength. That could not dent soft tissue, let alone combat armor." The Kragoth cadets were howling with laughter now. One of them, Dragthor, called out, "Commander, perhaps the human needs a smaller dummy, maybe one designed for nursery training." Even I had to chuckle at that one. "Cadet Webb," I said, circling him like a predator, which in hindsight was probably unnecessarily cruel. "This is precisely why I suggested administrative work. Look at you. No scales, no natural armor, no enhanced musculature. You are soft, vulnerable, weak. These are simply biological facts." Marcus stood there, his fists clenched at his sides, saying nothing. His jaw was tight, and I could see he was holding back something. Anger, perhaps. Frustration. At the time I assumed it was just wounded pride. I should have paid more attention to that detail. "In actual combat," I continued, warming to my lecture now, "an enemy will not hold back because you have delicate bones. They will not show mercy because your skin tears easily. They will strike to kill, and species like yours, Cadet Webb, simply do not have the physical tools to survive that reality." I turned to Riley, who had been watching silently from the side the entire time. Her expression was completely neutral, almost serene, not embarrassed like Marcus, not angry, just waiting. "I mean no offense to your species," I said, though of course I absolutely did. "But humanity simply lacks the evolutionary advantages necessary for frontline combat. There is no shame in recognizing your limitations. A good soldier knows their strengths and weaknesses. Your strength is clearly not physical combat." "Perhaps you could file reports about combat," Dragthor suggested, causing another round of laughter. "Or maybe describe battles using your famous human poetry." Yes, I agreed, riding the wave of mockery. "Very artistic species, humans. Wonderful at painting pictures with words, just not so wonderful at actual fighting." Marcus finally spoke, his voice controlled but tight. "Permission to return to formation, Commander." "Granted," I said, waving him away dismissively. "Take your place with the others. Try not to injure yourself walking back." More laughter. More mockery. Marcus walked back to the line of cadets, his head held high despite the humiliation. I had to give him credit for that. At least, the human had dignity, even if he lacked strength. Riley Foster, however, had not moved. She was still standing there watching me with those unsettlingly calm blue eyes. And then she raised her hand. "Commander Zylok," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Permission to attempt the test." Oh, ancestors. If only I had known what was about to happen. If only I had just said no. The laughter that erupted when Riley volunteered was somehow even louder than before. I am not proud of this, but I actually had to steady myself against the combat dummy because I was laughing so hard. Riley Foster, all 60 kilograms of her, wanted to take the strength test. The female human, the one who looked like she would struggle to carry her own equipment pack. Oh no. I managed between chuckles, wiping moisture from my eyes. "Cadet Foster, please. Spare yourself the embarrassment. Your colleague already demonstrated the limitations of your species. There is no need for you to endure the same humiliation." "I would like to try anyway, sir," Riley said, her tone perfectly polite, perfectly respectful. Not a hint of anger or defensiveness, just calm determination. This somehow made it even funnier. "She is smaller than Webb," Cractor called out. "She will probably bounce off the dummy like a rubber ball." The training hall was in complete hysterics now. Several cadets were literally holding their sides. Even Instructor Thaxlor, normally stoic and professional, was making that wheezing sound the Thaxians make when amused. An idea struck me then, a wonderful, terrible idea that seemed absolutely hilarious at the time. "Instructor Velmoth," I called to my Borfian colleague across the hall. "What do you wager this human can even reach the combat dummy without assistance?" 10 credits says she asks for a step stool. Velmoth clicked his mandibles in amusement. "I will take that bet." 20 credits says the impact does not even register on the sensors. 30 credits, Instructor Thaxlor added, says she hurts herself trying. Oh, we were having such fun. Such wonderful, ignorant fun. Riley waited patiently while we made our jokes, her expression never changing. Just that same calm, almost peaceful look, like someone waiting for a shuttle that was running late. All right, I said, composing myself and approaching her. "Cadet Foster, I appreciate your bravery, truly I do, but perhaps we should make this fair. We have training dummies designed for juvenile cadets, much less reinforced. You could use one of those instead. No shame in it. Even Kragoth younglings start with easier equipment." I was offering her a way out, you see. A chance to save face, perform her test on equipment meant for children, get through the requirement without complete humiliation. She should have taken it. "Thank you, sir, but I would prefer to use the same dummy as everyone else," Riley said, gesturing to the combat dummy that Cractor had dented. "The standard equipment, if you do not mind." The laughter started again, but I held up a hand for silence. This was too good to rush. "The same dummy," I repeated slowly, making sure everyone heard. "The one reinforced to withstand Kragoth battle strikes. The one designed to simulate armored enemy combatants. That dummy." "Yes, sir. That one." I turned to the other instructors. "Did you all hear this? The human wants to use standard equipment. Someone record this." Velmoth called out. "This will be legendary." "I am already recording," Drakther said, holding up his personal comm device. "This is going in the Academy archives under Comedy section." I walked over to Instructor Krell, who was supervising from the side. "Krell, you have to see this. The tiny human thinks she can damage a combat dummy." "I would not miss it, Commander," Krell rumbled, his massive frame moving closer for a better view. Soon, all 5 instructors in the facility had gathered, along with every single cadet. The demonstration had turned into an impromptu show, and Riley Foster was the main attraction. She walked calmly to the combat dummy, her movements fluid and relaxed. No hesitation, no fear. She rolled her shoulders once, twice, loosening up like this was just another routine exercise. Then she turned her head and looked directly at me. "Commander Zylok?" she asked, her voice cutting through the murmurs of anticipated laughter. "Quick question before I begin." "Yes, Cadet," I replied, still grinning. "Is this dummy expensive?" The question caught me completely off guard. "What?" "The combat dummy," Riley clarified, pointing at it. "Is it expensive to replace? Like, does it come out of the Academy budget, or is it a big procurement issue?" I exchanged confused glances with the other instructors. What kind of question was that? "The Academy has quite adequate funding," Cadet, I said slowly, we have dozens of these units. Replacements are ordered regularly as part of standard wear and tear. Why do you ask? Riley nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. Just wanted to make sure, did not want to cause any budgetary problems. She turned back to the dummy. Budgetary problems. Velimoth whispered to me. She is worried about the Academy budget, as if she could possibly damage military-grade equipment. Adorable, really, I whispered back. She thinks her little tap might scuff the paint. Riley took her stance. Feet shoulder-width apart. Weight balanced, hands loose at her sides. She took one deep breath, held it for a moment, then exhaled slowly. The training hall went almost silent, everyone waiting for the punchline to this absurd joke. Riley drew back her right fist, and everything I thought I knew about humanity shattered along with that dummy. The sound was unlike anything I had ever heard in a training facility. Not a thud, not a crack, a thunderclap, an explosion of kinetic force that made every single being in that hall flinch instinctively, their bodies recognizing danger even before their minds processed what happened. Riley's fist connected with the combat dummy's chest plate, and physics itself seemed offended by what occurred next. The reinforced plating, designed to withstand plasma weapons and Kragoth warhammers, did not just dent, it cracked. Spiderwebbing fractures radiated outward from the impact point like a frozen lightning strike, spreading across the entire torso section in milliseconds. The dummy, all 200 kilograms of it, lifted off its mounting base and flew backward through the air like it had been hit by a cargo transport. It crashed into the reinforced wall 6 meters away with a sound like a ship hull breach, and then the alarms started, blaring, deafening klaxons that we only heard during actual combat emergencies or catastrophic equipment failures. Red warning lights flooded the training hall, bathing everything in crimson. The impact sensors, designed to measure lethal force for statistical purposes, had registered something so far beyond their normal parameters that the safety protocols kicked in automatically. Silence. Complete, absolute, suffocating silence underneath those screaming alarms. Every cadet stood frozen. Every instructor stood frozen. I stood frozen, my jaw hanging open so wide I probably could have caught flying insects, my confident smirk erased like it had never existed. Riley Foster, tiny human Riley Foster, calmly shook out her right hand, flexing her fingers a few times like someone who just finished writing a long report, not grimacing, not crying out in pain, not cradling broken bones, just mildly stretching, like the whole thing was a minor inconvenience. Someone shut off those alarms. I heard myself shout, though my voice sounded distant, disconnected, like it belonged to someone else. Instructor Krell stumbled to the control panel, his hands shaking as he entered the override codes. The klaxons died, leaving a ringing silence that was somehow worse. I stumbled toward the wall where the dummy had impacted. My legs felt strange, unsteady. Up close, the damage was even more horrifying. The chest plate was not just cracked, it was caved inward, the reinforced alloy bent and twisted like cheap tin. The mounting bolts had sheared clean off. The internal impact gel, designed to absorb and distribute force, had ruptured and was leaking out like mechanical blood. This is, I stammered, my brain refusing to form complete thoughts. This is impossible. This is a malfunction. The dummy was clearly defective. The armor plating must have been compromised during previous tests. There is no possible way. I can try another one if you like, sir. Riley's voice cut through my rambling like a plasma torch. I spun around to face her, and she was just standing there, hands clasped behind her back, parade rest position, looking at me with those calm blue eyes. What? I said. Another dummy, Riley repeated patiently, as if explaining something to a child. If you think that one was defective, I can demonstrate again. You said the Academy has plenty of replacements. No. The word came out sharper and louder than I intended, almost a yelp. Several cadets jumped at my tone. I cleared my throat, tried to recover some dignity. No, that will not be necessary. Cadet. I believe we have sufficient data from your demonstration. Are you certain, Commander? Riley asked. An ancestors help me. I think I detected the faintest hint of amusement in her voice. I would not want you to doubt the validity of the test. Scientific rigor is important in training assessments. My scales were tingling, that instinctive Krallian response to danger that had kept my species alive for millennia, Every survival instinct I possessed was screaming at me that this small, soft-skinned human was the most dangerous being in the room. Quite certain, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Velmoth approached the damaged dummy, his four hands running over the ruined plating. "Commander," he said quietly, his mandibles clicking in what I recognized as shock. "Commander, this level of damage, I have seen Kragoth heavy weapons teams produce less destruction. The force required to do this would be—" He trailed off, unable or unwilling to finish the sentence. Cracked Thor, the massive Kragoth cadet who had dented his dummy with such pride minutes ago, was staring at Riley like she was a singularity bomb in human form. "How?" he rumbled, his deep voice shaking slightly. "How is that possible? You are so small. You have no armor, no enhanced biology." No what?" Riley asked pleasantly, turning to face him. "No natural advantages." Thor took an involuntary step backward. A Kragoth berserker, trained since hatching for combat, retreated from a human barely half his size. Marcus Webb, standing in the line of cadets, was not laughing. He was not smiling. He just looked tired, like someone watching a performance he had seen many times before. A performance that never got less tedious. "Commander Zylok," Marcus said quietly, and every eye in the hall turned to him. "Permission to speak freely, sir." I could not find my voice. I just nodded. Marcus stepped forward, moving to stand beside Riley. And that is when everything, absolutely everything I thought I knew about humanity came crashing down even harder than that dummy. Marcus Webb looked at me with an expression I can only describe as patient exhaustion, like a teacher dealing with a particularly slow student for the 100th time. "Commander," he said calmly, "when I hit that dummy earlier, I was holding back, significantly. I did not want to break your equipment on my first week here." Seemed rude. The words did not make sense. They could not make sense. "Holding back?" I repeated stupidly. You said that was your full strength." "No, sir. You asked if that was my warm-up strike. Said it was my full strength for that particular punch. I did not clarify that I was deliberately pulling my force to avoid causing damage." It gestured at the ruined dummy embedded in the wall. Riley, on the other hand, did not hold back. "Because you insisted she use standard equipment and seemed quite confident it could handle anything she delivered." Riley nodded cheerfully. "You said the Academy had plenty of replacements, sir, so I figured it was fine to demonstrate properly." But how?" Velmoth stammered, still examining the destroyed dummy. "Your species has no enhanced musculature, no dense skeletal structure, no biological weapons. You are soft, fragile. How can you generate this kind of force?" Marcus and Riley exchanged a look, and then Riley sighed. "Okay," she said, cracking her knuckles, which made several cadets flinch. "Quick biology lesson. Human bones are incredibly dense compared to our body mass. We evolved as persistence hunters on a high-gravity world. Our skeletal structure is built to absorb massive impacts repeatedly without breaking, running, jumping, falling, fighting, for millions of years. Our pain tolerance," Marcus added, "is apparently unusual by galactic standards. We can function through injuries that would incapacitate most species. Broken bones, we splint them and keep moving. Torn muscles, we wrap them and continue fighting. It is not that we do not feel pain. We absolutely do. We just do not stop because of it." I felt my scales going cold. "Riley specifically," Marcus continued, gesturing to his colleague as a martial artist. "She is trained since childhood in combat techniques. Her frame is deceptive, Commander. Human females often have higher pain endurance than males, better stress management, more efficient muscle recruitment." Riley held up her hand, the one that had just destroyed military equipment. "See this? No claws, no natural weapons at all. So we developed techniques to turn our entire body into a weapon. Hip rotation, weight transfer, skeletal alignment, kinetic chains. We learned to generate devastating force without any biological advantages, because we did not have any biological advantages. Your species," she continued, looking directly at me, "evolved with scales, natural armor. You got comfortable, confident. You could take hits because your biology protected you. So your combat styles became about endurance, about outlasting opponents." "Humans," Marcus said, his voice taking on an edge I had not heard before. "We evolved on a death world with predators that had claws, fangs, venom, armor, everything. We had soft skin and fragile bodies, so we became the most dangerous thing on our planet by learning to hit harder, move faster, and never ever give up. The training hall was silent except for their voices. Every human child, Riley said, grows up falling down, getting hurt and getting back up. We break bones playing sports. We tear muscles during exercise. We scar easily and heal slowly compared to some species. But we keep going, always. She looked at the damaged dummy, then back at me. That punch I just threw, that is the result of a species that had to learn to kill things bigger, stronger, and better armed than us, using nothing but technique and determination. No armor, no natural weapons, just physics, leverage, and the absolute refusal to accept that we are prey. Kraththor, still standing several meters back, spoke in a voice much quieter than before. You said you held back human Marcus. How much? Marcus considered the question. Maybe 70%. I figured that was safe for your equipment. 70%, Instructor Krell repeated, his voice hollow. You used 30% power and still registered yellow on the sensors. And her? Velmoth asked, pointing at Riley with a trembling hand. Riley shrugged. Maybe 85%. I was being careful not to break my hand. If I really did not care about injury, I could hit harder, but that seemed counterproductive for a training exercise. 85%. She had destroyed a combat dummy rated for military use at 85% of her capability. This tiny human who looked like she should be protected, sheltered, kept away from danger. Your species, I said slowly, my mind reeling, evolved without armor, so you learned to not need it. You evolved without weapons, so you learned to become weapons. Exactly, Marcus said, nodding. On Earth we have a saying, the best defense is a good offense. If you cannot take a hit, make sure you never get hit. And if you do get hit, hit back twice as hard. I looked around the training hall. Every single cadet species that prided themselves on their combat prowess was giving the two humans a wide berth now. Even the instructors had unconsciously moved back, maintaining distance. This is why, Riley said gently, almost kindly, human diplomats always seem so insistent on peaceful solutions, Commander. We know what happens when we stop being peaceful. We have spent our entire evolutionary history learning to be efficient at violence. We got very, very good at it. Marcus smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. We just prefer not to advertise that fact. Tends to make negotiations smoother when people do not realize they are talking to apex predators. My confident speech from earlier, about humans being suited for administrative work, echoed mockingly in my memory. Soft, fragile, weak. I had never been more wrong about anything in my entire life. News travels fast in a military academy. By the evening meal, every single cadet, instructor, and maintenance worker knew about the incident. By the next morning, the story had spread to 3 neighboring facilities. The humans had arrived. I watched it happen in real time. This complete transformation of perception. Marcus and Riley walked into the cafeteria for breakfast, and it was like watching a predator enter a herd of prey animals. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Cadets who had been laughing and joking went silent. A pathway opened before them automatically. Species who hours before had been mocking them now pressing themselves against walls to maintain distance. Kraththor, who had called Marcus weak, now nodded respectfully and mumbled, mourning humans as they passed. A group of Borphian cadets literally changed tables to avoid sitting near them. The Thexian assassin trainees, beings who prided themselves on being apex killers, watched the humans with new eyes. Calculating eyes. Threat assessment eyes. Riley got her breakfast, sat down at an empty table, and within seconds that entire section of the cafeteria had cleared out. She looked around at the empty seats, sighed, and started eating alone. Marcus joined her, carrying his own tray. Well, he said loud enough for me to hear from my instructor's table, at least we have plenty of space now. I preferred the mockery, Riley muttered. Fear is exhausting. Now they will be weird and tense around us for weeks. As for me, I had the distinct pleasure of filing an incident report with Academy Command. Let me understand this correctly, Commander Zylok. High Administrator Krell then said, reading my report on his datapad. His mandibles were twitching in what I recognized as suppressed amusement. A human female, mass approximately 60 kilograms, destroyed a Mark 7 combat dummy rated for Kragoth battle simulation. Yes, High Administrator, I said stiffly. And she did this with a single punch. Yes, High Administrator. And your response to this incident was to initially claim equipment malfunction. I said nothing. What could I say? Krell then looked up from the pad, his multiple eyes gleaming with barely contained laughter. Commander, this is perhaps the most entertaining report I have read in 15 years of service. Please continue assigning humans to light administrative duties. I am certain that will work out excellently. The sarcasm was not lost on me. The procurement office is billing your training facility for the damaged equipment, he continued, and we are implementing new protocols. All future human strength demonstrations require advanced safety measures, backup equipment and medical teams on standby. Not for the humans, mind you. For everyone else. By the third day, Riley had become a legend. I overheard cadets in the corridors, speaking in hushed tones. That is her. The tiny human. I heard she punches like a siege weapon. My combat instructor said humans are persistence hunters. They chase prey until it dies from exhaustion. I heard they feel pain but just ignore it. Like it does not matter. Stay away from both of them. The male held back and still registered as dangerous. The fear was palpable, pervasive, and honestly, completely deserved. On the 5th day after the incident, I found the courage to approach them. They were in the combat training hall, thankfully, empty of other cadets, practicing on specialized equipment we had rush ordered. Equipment rated for heavy weapons testing. Cadets Webb and Foster. I said formally. May I speak with you? They stopped their exercises and turned to face me. I still had to suppress the instinct to step backward. Of course, Commander, Riley said politely. Always so polite. I took a breath, straightened my spine, and said the words I should have said from the beginning. I owe you both an apology. A significant one. I made assumptions about your species based on appearance and incomplete data. I mocked you. I encouraged others to mock you. I treated you as inferior when in fact I was the ignorant one. I am sorry. Marcus nodded slowly. Apology accepted, Commander. We have dealt with this before. Most species make the same mistake when they first meet humans. We understand, Riley added. No permanent harm done. Still, I continued. I should have known better. I am a military instructor. Assessment without prejudice is fundamental to my role. I failed that basic requirement. You learned, Marcus said simply. That is what matters. Most species figure it out eventually. Usually after sparring sessions. But sometimes it takes actual combat situations before they really believe it. Riley smiled. That same calm smile that now made my scales itch with unease. We are actually pretty friendly once people get past the initial shock. We do not enjoy being feared. We prefer being underestimated. Honestly, makes life simpler. Marcus grinned then, and there was something sharp in that expression. Something predatory. Want to see what happens when we do not hold back, Commander? He asked casually. My scales went pale, actually lost color. I felt the blood drain from my extremities as my body instinctively prepared for fight or flight. Probably flight. No, I said quickly. No, that will not be necessary. I believe your demonstrations have been quite sufficient. Both humans laughed, genuine and warm, and some of the tension dissolved. Relax, Commander, Riley said. We are on the same side. We just wanted you to understand that soft does not mean weak, fragile does not mean helpless. And sometimes the most dangerous beings are the ones who do not look dangerous at all. I nodded, understanding settling into my bones like cold water. Humans. Soft-skinned, unarmored, naturally weaponless humans. They had evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill them, and they had responded by becoming the most efficient killers on their planet. No claws, they made tools. No armor, they learned to not get hit. No venom, they developed techniques to generate catastrophic force with nothing but physics and determination. I will update your training assessments, I said quietly, and I will personally ensure that other instructors understand what humanity represents. No more mockery. No more assumptions. Appreciated, Commander, Marcus said. As I walked away, leaving them to their training, I heard Riley say to Marcus, "You think we should tell him about human endurance running? Let him discover that one naturally." Marcus replied, "The look on his face will be worth it. I have learned many lessons in my military career. Tactical lessons, strategic lessons, leadership lessons. But the lesson those two humans taught me was perhaps the most important. Never, ever judge a species by their appearance, especially humans, because those soft, fragile, unarmored beings, they are far more dangerous than they look. They evolved to be that way. They train to be that way. And they are very, very good at it. Marcus was right about one thing. Most species figure it out eventually. I am just grateful I learned during a training exercise and not on an actual battlefield. Because if Riley Foster can destroy military equipment while holding back 15% of her capability, I really truly desperately do not want to see what happens when humans stop holding back at all. That, my friends, is a level of violence I am perfectly content to never witness.